I never liked Harry. I want to be upfront about that. I watched him walk away from the crown, drag his family through Oprah interviews, write a memoir that aired centuries of private grief in a Barnes& Noble bargain bin, and I thought, good riddance. Most of you probably felt the same way. But here's the thing about being wrong. Sometimes the facts don't care about your opinion. Because I've spent the last few weeks going back through everything, every missed engagement, every tense headline, every moment where Charles looked at his two sons and had to choose. And what I found doesn't make Harry the hero of this story. But it does make William something I didn't expect. It makes him the problem. And if you're willing to stay with me for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why King Charles, the man who spent decades protecting William, shielding William, choosing William over everything else, has quietly, carefully, and very deliberately started building a future that doesn't center around his heir. This isn't a pro-Harry video. This is a video about what happens when the facts stop cooperating with the narrative we all agreed on. Let's start at the beginning. Or rather, let's start at Balmoral. September 2025. The royal family gathers at Balmoral Castle for their annual summer retreat. It's tradition. It's family. It's the one time a year when the cameras step back and the Windsors are supposed to just be a family. And according to multiple sources who spoke to royal correspondents at the time, Charles and William barely said a word to each other. Not an argument. Not a blow-up. Silence. Days of it. One insider described the atmosphere between them as tense and fraught. Another said the two men had fundamentally different visions of what the monarchy should be, and that those visions had stopped being a polite disagreement and started being a wall. Now, when I first read that, I filed it under the usual royal gossip. Families argue. Even kings and their heirs. But then I started pulling the thread, because Balmoral wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom. Let me give you the facts, not the spin, not the interpretation, just the documented record of what William has and hasn't done over the past 2 years. In 2025, multiple royal reporters noted that William took 5 separate vacations in a 7-month period. 5. While his father, a man who was actively being treated for cancer, a man who was showing up to public engagements while undergoing chemotherapy, was maintaining a full royal schedule. Then came the request that, honestly, still shocks me when I think about it. According to reporting from the Daily Mail, confirmed by Cosmopolitan and multiple royal sources, William actually went to Charles and asked to reduce his royal engagements. He wanted to do less. His father, the king, fighting cancer, told him in 2 words to, and I'm quoting here, think again. Let that land for a second. The heir to the throne, the man being groomed his entire life for the most public role in Britain, asked his cancer-fighting father if he could cut back on the work. And Charles, who by every account loves his son deeply, had to look at him and say, no. That's not a footnote. That's a turning point. And if you think Charles didn't notice what that request said about his son's commitment, you don't understand this king. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because now we have to talk about Harry. And I know, half of you just groaned. Stick with me. Harry has been trying to get back in the room for years. Not in a loud, dramatic way. The memoir was dramatic. The interviews were dramatic. I'm not pretending otherwise. But after all of that, after the dust settled, Harry has been making quiet moves toward reconciliation. He's been sending letters, making calls. According to royal insiders, he extended personal invitations to Charles and to William to attend the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham, a gesture made well in advance, a gesture that said, I want you there. I want us to be in the same room again. And here is the part that nobody in the mainstream royal coverage wants to say out loud. Charles has been listening. Sources close to the king confirm that Charles has kept William out of reconciliation talks with Harry entirely, not because Harry earned it, but because William has made it clear, repeatedly, firmly, almost aggressively, that he wants no part of any path that leads to Harry coming back. William reportedly called Charles's attempt at peace talks a terrible idea. He declined Harry's offer for a direct conversation. He has, by multiple accounts, positioned himself as the hardest wall between his father and any kind of resolution with his brother. Now ask yourself, and this is the question I couldn't stop thinking about, why would a man block his dying father from reconciling with his estranged son? Protection? Maybe. There's a version of this where William is guarding the institution, where he genuinely believes Harry is a destabilizing force, and keeping him out is the responsible, strategic choice. But here's the thing, Charles doesn't agree, and Charles is the king. So what William is actually doing, whether he frames it that way or not, is overriding his father, on a deeply personal matter, while that father is ill, while that father is running out of time, and Charles has noticed. Let's talk about what a king actually notices, because Charles III is not a simple man. He spent 50 years waiting to be king, 50 years watching, learning, absorbing every signal, every slight, every loyalty test that came his way. This is a man who was shaped by a mother who showed almost no public warmth, who grew up understanding that in this family, what you do says everything, and what you feel says nothing. So when Charles watches William show up late to his own coronation, late because he was filming social media content, Charles notices. When Charles reportedly got irritated that William won't wear a kilt in Scotland, which sounds petty until you understand that for Charles, tradition is not aesthetic, it's identity. Charles notices. When William skips engagements citing vague, personal matters, when he takes a fifth vacation, when he asks to do less instead of more, when he positions himself not as the dutiful son stepping up, but as a man quietly waiting for the crown to come to him without having to fully earn it in real time. Charles notices all of it. And here's what makes this different from every other father-son tension story you've read about this family. Charles cannot say anything publicly. He cannot correct William on camera. He cannot issue a statement expressing disappointment. The system doesn't allow it. So instead, he acts. He keeps William out of the Harry conversations. He reportedly refuses to accelerate any transfer of power or responsibilities to William beyond what protocol demands. He continues showing up himself, publicly, visibly, despite his illness, in a way that makes the contrast with his son impossible to ignore for anyone paying attention. This is a king communicating through action, and the message is not subtle. If you want to leave a comment right now, I'd genuinely love to know. Do you think William's reluctance is strategic, or do you think he's just not ready? Because the comment section on this one is going to be interesting. Drop it below. Now, here's where I have to be honest with you about something. None of this makes Harry right. Harry left. Harry wrote the book. Harry did the Netflix series. Harry has said things about his family that cannot be unsaid, and the breach of trust that caused, leaking private details from a meeting with his father during the king's illness, according to sources, is real. The damage is real. But, and this is the uncomfortable part, Harry leaving created a vacuum, and what filled that vacuum was supposed to be William stepping fully, completely, without hesitation into the role he was born for. That hasn't happened, and the man who can see that most clearly, who has the most complete picture of both sons, who has watched both of them up close for their entire lives, is Charles. Harry didn't destroy the heir apparent's reputation with the king. William is doing that himself, slowly, quietly, through 100 small choices that add up to a single, unmistakable signal. He is not ready, or he doesn't want to be. And right now, Charles isn't sure which is worse. So the next time someone tells you the story of this family is simple, that Harry is the villain and William is the crown waiting to be worn, I want you to remember this video. Because the man wearing the crown right now sees something different. And kings, more than anyone, understand the difference between an heir who wants the throne and one who is willing to earn it. Think about that, and I'll see you in the next one.